From the moment Donald Trump occupied the West Wing in January after his election last year, taking pot shots at South Africa has been one of his favorite pastimes.
Terrible things are happening in South Africa. The leadership is doing some terrible things, horrible things. They're taking away land, they're confiscating land, and actually they're doing things that are perhaps far worse than that.
The following month, the Trump administration wasted no time in cutting aid. At about the same time, the US Parliament mandated an extensive review of South African relations. The administration went on to create a special dispensation for Afrikaners, granting them refugee status after insisting racist acts of genocide were being perpetrated against them. Things took the worst turn in March, when South Africa's ambassador to the United States, Ibrahim Rasool, was declared persona non grata and given 3 days to leave the country after making unflattering comments about Trump. And then, a couple of weeks ago, both relief and nervousness as the US president announced that he would meet with his South African counterpart. Among the many questions that were raised was whether the South African president would suffer the same fate as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's humiliation by Trump. This was during his visit to the Oval Office in February.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
On Wednesday, the two presidents ultimately met face to face. It began with a brief welcoming handshake at the door before the two presidents retreated to a media briefing inside the Oval Office, where common courtesies were extended, albeit for a brief period.
Thank you very much, everyone. It's a great honor to be with the President of South Africa, President Ramaphosa, and he is a man who is certainly in some circles really respected, other circles a little bit less respected, like all of us, in all fairness, like all of us.
We all like that.
It wasn't long before the host took his gloves off, complete with a dramatic video in cue.
Excuse me, turn the lights down, and just put this on. It's right behind you, Johan.
There's nothing this parliament can do. With or without you, people are going to occupy land. We require no permission from you, from the president, from no one. We don't care. We can do whatever you want to do. Who are you to tell us whether we can occupy land or not? We are going to occupy land. Yes. South Africa occupy land. That's who we are. We don't ever want to do. Can we drop my membership from this useless parliament?
Yes, Honorable Member.
Must never be scared to kill. A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act. Shoot to kill, Yamaza. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer. Pa, pa. We are starting with this whiteness. We are cutting the throat of whiteness in Ghana. Shoot to kill Yamasa. Kill the poor, the farmer.
These are burial sites right here. Burial sites. Over 1,000 of white farmers, and those cars are lined up to pay love on a Sunday morning. Each one of those white things you see is a cross, and there's approximately 1,000 of them. They're all white farmers, the family of white farmers. And those cars aren't driving, they're stopped there to pay respects to their family member who was killed. And it's a terrible sight. I've never seen anything like it. Both sides of the road, you have crosses. Those people were all killed.
Have they told you where that is, Mr. President? No, I'd like to know where that is, because this I've never seen.
As Kanita Hunter reports, it wasn't long before President Trump's misinformation campaign was exposed.
Donald Trump claimed this video shows the graves of 1,000 people killed in South Africa, some allegedly beheaded. He said the mourners gathered on a Sunday morning at the gravesite, calling it evidence of white genocide.
And the people that are being killed in large numbers, and you saw all those grave sites, and those are people that loved ones going, I guess on a Sunday morning, they told me, to pay respect to their loved ones that were killed. Their heads chopped off, they died violently. And, you know, I mean, we're here to talk about it.
But the video actually shows a protest in Normandy near Newcastle, where the local community, both black and white, gathered after the farm murder of Gled and Vida Rafferty. Former Police Minister Bheki Cele says he responded immediately to the incident.
I was there the very first thing in the next morning. I visited the family and I spoke with the farmers who were very angry, correctly so, because there was that brutality, which in South Africa is, I want to repeat, not targeted to farmers and all that.
Cele says crime statistics do not support claims that Afrikaner farmers are being specifically targeted. In 2024, of the 12 people murdered on farms, only one was a farm owner.
It has been explained time and again we have crime in South Africa. We don't have genocide. We don't have targeted killing.
The video is among the materials Trump cited to support claims that white farmers are being killed and their land seized. Professor Herman Wasserman says the aim wasn't to seek truth, but to push a misleading narrative.
There is elements of disinformation, and there's also just elements of lack of context, and maybe willful lack of context. So this is dangerous because it presents a narrative that plays into the hands of, let's put it bluntly, white supremacist idea that whites in South Africa are persecuted, that they are singled out for attack.
Wasserman says while Trump amplified the misinformation, it originated in South Africa and must be addressed locally.
As news agency Reuters reported on Friday, part of the stack of papers Trump also paraded on the day as further evidence were in fact pictures of the conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo and not from South Africa.
Look, these are articles over the last few days. Death of people. Death, death, death. Horrible death. Death. I don't know. To pick anyone, white South Africans are fleeing because of the violence and racist laws. And this is all, I mean, I'll give these to you.
No,
so when you say, what would I like to do? I don't know what to do. Look at this. White South African couples say that they were attacked violently.
President Trump, when will you go and see for yourself if it isn't?
Well, I could do that. Look, here's burial sites all over the place. These are all white farmers that are being buried. And he asks about a jet that was given. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You know, you are so bad. You're such a bad reporter. This is one after another. This family was wiped out. I'm just looking.
Can we get a report from President Ramaphosa, please?
Reaction to those videos, Mr. President?
Yes, I want your reaction.
Well, I think the videos are so. No, when you look at the videos, I mean, how does it get worse? And these are people that are officials, and they're saying that kill the white farmer and take their land. That's what. And I have other friends in South Africa. I have people that left. One in particular that says you can't go there. He said they want to take your land. They take your land and they kill you. It's okay, and they say it's okay to do. Now we're going to talk about it.
We're going to.
But this is a tremendous look. This is a story recent. These are all people that recently got killed.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it can get any worse. These are and you know, the men that you saw, the people that you saw in that movie, those are officials. Those are people that were in office. They had one march, they had a dance in your parliament, whatever you may call it, legislature.
Well, let me clarify that.
Yeah,
let me clarify that, because what you saw, the speeches that were being made, one, that is not government policy. We have a multi-party democracy in South Africa that allows people to express themselves, political parties to adhere to various policies, and in many cases, or in some cases, those policies do not go along with government policy. Our government policy is completely against what he was saying, even in the parliament. And they're a small minority party, which is allowed to exist in terms of our constitution.
but you do allow them to take land.
No.
You do allow them to take land.
Nobody can
And then
take
when
land.
they take the land, they kill the white farmer. And when they kill the white farmer, nothing happens to them.
No, there is
Nothing happens to
There
them.
is criminality in our country. People who do get killed, unfortunately, through criminal activity, are not only white people. Majority of them are black people. And we have now
The farmers are
utilized.
black. The farmers are not black.
We
I don't
now-
say that's good or bad, but the farmers are not black. And the people that are being killed in large numbers, and you saw all those grave sites, and those are people that loved ones going, I guess on a Sunday morning, they told me, to pay respect to their loved ones that were killed. Their heads chopped off, they died violently. And, you know, I mean, we're here to talk about it, and I didn't know we'd get involved here. But I will say this, that if the news wasn't fake, like NBC, which is fake news, totally, one of the worst, ABC, NBC, CBS, horrible. But if they weren't fake news like this jerk that we have here, if we had real reporters, they'd be covering it.
With Trump still unconvinced, Ramaphosa handed over to his agriculture minister.
We have a rural safety problem in South Africa. I don't think anyone wants to candy coat that. And it requires a lot of effort to get on top of it. It's going to require more policing resources. It's going to require a different strategy to be able to deal with it. But certainly the majority of South Africa's commercial and smallholder farmers really do want to stay in South Africa and make it work.
Billionaire businessman Johan Rupert seemed to think that only half the story was being told.
The crime is terrible, sir, but Mr. Steenhuisen won't admit to it, but he runs the Western Cape, where I live. And the biggest murder rate is in the Cape Flats. Gangs. We've got gang warfare.
An opportunity was given to other members of the South African delegation.
I know there's a lot of anger, you know, through the transition. There's also a lot of stuff happening in the apartheid days. You know, we grew up in the apartheid era. But I don't think two wrongs makes a right.
There is no doubt about it that we are a violent nation, you know, for a number of reasons, and we're not condoning anything. But also, if you go into the rural areas where black majority are, you would see women, elderly, being raped, being killed, being murdered. And these are black elderly women that would be found throat slits, raped multiple times, and all of that. And the problem in South Africa, it is not necessarily about race, but it is about crime.
After the break, not only reactions to the two presidents' encounter, but also a look at the behind closed doors meeting that followed. Did South Africa manage to reset the relationship and restart trade talks, as was the intention before going to Washington? You're watching This Week in Politics. After watching the Ramaphosa-Trump spectacle, political parties and pundits weighed in.
If there's a positive out of this is the fact that, to start with, the South Africa got an audience. And to me, that's also a big win that we got an audience. What we do with the audience is what matters afterwards. And I think the other thing we must actually not also worry about a lot is there's the theatrics of being public in front of a TV and the realities of being behind closed doors and negotiating the deals.
We think it's a confirmation that the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Economic Freedom Fighters, Julius Malema, continues to be on the right side of history. So unlike others who are being praised for being charming and being mature in a patronizing manner by Donald Trump and Johan Rupert, the Commander-in-Chief and President of the EFF is being called out for chanting a song called Kill the Poor, Kill the Farmer, which is directed to a system of oppression where a white minority controls the resources in the land of South Africa, while the black majority continues to be slaves at their behest.
The last issue, it is the issue of the embedded business interests that himself, President Ramaphosa, and his close associates, which is Johan Rupert, which came very strongly there, especially when Mr. Rupert said that they want Starlink in South Africa, they want the technology, they want the investment, they want the drones. Now, you get now to ask questions whether, were those people going there to negotiate or speak on behalf of South Africans and affirm of our position on correcting the wrongs of the past and dealing with the issues of the widening inequality and some of the apartheid legacies which have not been corrected up until this day.
The ambush and the brinkmanship, we are told, ended in front of the cameras. Behind closed doors, Team South Africa says, not only did cooler heads prevail, but the two delegations got down to business.
Following that engagement, which you all witnessed, we retired to what I think they call the cabinet room for lunch. And we had a rather pleasant lunch. It was quite delicious and 3-course meal. And we were able then to have really good in-depth exchanges with President Trump and his other officials. The discussions revolved, of course, around golf, but they also revolved around issues of trade and investment. And we were able to, in discussing all that, one, to confirm that there will continue to be engagement between South Africa and the United States officials, particularly the trade and industry level, to deal with the package of issues that we had tabled that have to do with trade and investment.
The Trade, Industry and Competition Minister elaborated.
In terms of the proposal itself, it is about an agreement on trade and investment, and it has a number of components. The first focuses in particular on trade and investments, areas in which we think there's opportunity to increase trade between ourselves. We indicated, given our impending shortage on gas or the gas cliff, appetite to procure LNG from the US, which was both in our discussions with the ambassador, but also in our discussions at the White House, positively received. And it's one of the areas that we'll be following up on. We also spoke about, in our trade and investment proposal, and I'm not going through the detail, but just components. So we dealt with trade and investment issues. We also dealt with issues in relation to AGOA, and the feedback we received in our engagements on Monday with regards to AGOA was that this is a matter that currently is in Congress. So it would be important for us to follow up in Congress with regards to the reauthorization of AGOA. I should say that having met with the trade ministers in Africa at the recent Africa Continental Free Trade Area Council of Ministers, we've agreed to develop a collective approach with regards to AGOA, and the US has also indicated that they would be convening a US-Africa forum at which we intend to present in detail our proposition on AGOA, but as South Africa, we have it in our document that the reauthorization of AGOA is important. The other chapter that we had, or section that we had rather, related to the Southern Africa Customs Union, SACUM, because of course we are in a customs union together with our sister countries. And the context of discussing SACU is because we negotiate tariffs as a customs union. And this is one of the areas that the US required a bit more elaboration. So we agreed that we'd have the issues on tariffs and non-tariff barriers added, which are the issues that we added yesterday. We also added a section on digital trade.
Hardly 24 hours after that feedback, the first demonstrable outcome of those behind closed doors discussions. Communications Minister Solly Malatsi has now formally gazetted a request for public comment for a possible change in the law that would allow South Africa-born billionaire Elon Musk's company Starlink and similar telecommunications companies to operate in South Africa. Ziyanda Ngcobo takes us through the legal issues as well as the politics that have so far made it difficult for people like Trump's friend and the US government's special employee to do what he had been itching to do.
The only thing standing between Starlink getting an operating license in South Africa is our Electronic Communications Act, which stipulates that licensees must have 30% ownership from previously disadvantaged groups. The satellite company's owner, Elon Musk, has been open about what he terms as race laws and him being discriminated against because he's not black. Musk, who's a senior advisor in US President Donald Trump's administration, is believed to be part of the reason why there are misconceptions about our country's transformation laws.
It's been very concerning for us what we have seen over the last couple of months or so. Initially, we thought it was really just about, wanting investment to come into this country. We thought that we could cooperatively find a way, where companies such as Starlink, and there are many others, by the way, who don't have any problem with the 30%. But it's clear that this is part of what I believe is an agenda that is driven largely by the Democratic Alliance, and I think also some of its reactionary partners. It's no coincidence that as they seek to undermine the ECA, they are also going to court fighting things like the Employment Equity Act.
Communications Minister Solly Malatsi is looking to implement a policy directive which would make it easier for foreign-owned satellite companies to operate in South Africa. This means introducing an equity equivalent program which allows for a multinational to fulfill their triple BEE requirements without handing over ownership. Malatsi adds that he's never met Musk or anyone affiliated with him.
I don't like chasing ghosts. And that means basically, dealing with fabrications. You would know that the court case being referred to was initiated, in the last administration, in the last parliament by my party, the Democratic Alliance. At the end of the day, the equity equivalent programs, as I said earlier, is part of the medium-term development plan, which was adopted by Cabinet, which includes members of the ANC political party that the portfolio committee chairperson comes from. So this notion of trying to personalize this or politicize this in a manner that drives a particular narrative, doesn't hold water at all.
The Association of Communications and Technology says owning a license is not the only avenue available to companies like Starlink, as they could also partner with a South African entity to operate in the country.
Think of your OTTs that are out there, the Googles of this world, the TikToks of this world. Those guys, they don't have a license in South Africa, but they're able to operate in the South African environment, because you'll find that in order for them to deal with government, to deal with certain businesses in South Africa, they need to demonstrate that they have a triple BEE certificate. And the triple BEE certificate will be able to demonstrate that for purposes of ownership, they have what is called an equity equivalent. The equity equivalent, there's a formula to it that DTI prescribes that says it can be either something that you're doing in the community or with people that are Black, white women, that kind of thing.
Diko says it's not a coincidence that the Democratic Alliance, which has its minister heading up the country's communications department, having recently challenged the country's employment equity laws, which have been an impediment to Starlink's presence in South Africa.
It's really, really unfortunate that, in our portfolio, the minister there, as his party calls him, is a DA minister, and you can see some of those policies trying to find their way into their portfolio. And I think it's issues that we must remain vigilant about, because unfortunately the DA has been unmasked in this case. They're even using language like Elon Musk, such as race-based laws. We have no race-based laws in this country. We have transformative legislation that seeks to correct the historical injustice and the very, very serious structural inequalities that continue to exist.
By many people's accounts, it was a David and Goliath encounter that very few, if any, had anticipated. But just how consequential the Ramaphosa-Trump meeting will be for future diplomatic and trade relations between the two countries is what will determine whether it indeed there was something beyond the spectacle that South Africans who were glued to their screens witnessed. And that is your politics this week. Goodbye.